Welcome to episode 219 of OTD, your daily dose of soccer history by 17 Laws Guy. It's June 7, 1970. Guadalajara, Estadio Jalisco, Brazil against England. The team many people will come to call the greatest World Cup side ever, assembled against the defending world champions. Pelé against Bobby Moore. And early in the first half, the ball comes from the Brazilian right. Pelé rises. The header is perfect. He shouts goal, because Pelé thinks he has scored. But then Gordon Banks appears, not just as a goalkeeper, but as an interruption of physics. And this is the story of the save that stopped Pelé. But how did we get here? We start with 1966. England are world champions. Wembley, extra time, Geoff Hurst, Bobby Moore lifting the Jules Rimet trophy. The moment that turns Alf Ramsey's side into English football immortality. Brazil, leave 1966 wounded. They had won in 58 and 62, but England 66 becomes a disaster. Pelé is kicked, injured, and frustrated. Brazil go out in the group stage. The greatest football nation in the world has been made to look vulnerable. So by 1970, both teams carry a story. England carry the burden of defending a crown. Brazil carry the burden of restoring one. And Brazil nearly make a mess of the restoration before it even begins. João Saldanha had led them through qualifying, winning every match. But just months before the tournament, he is removed by CBF with João Avalanche in charge. The politics are heavy. Brazil is under military dictatorship. The national team is a state obsession. The World Cup is not merely sport. In comes Mario Zagallo, a World Cup winner as a player in 58 and 62, and now the coach asked to organize all that talent into one side. That wasn't easy. Brazil had too many number 10s. Pelé, Tostão, Rivelino, Gerson, Jairzinho. In another football culture, someone might have said 2-3, maybe 4. Zagallo, he says play them. Build the structure around the intelligence. Let the talent breathe, but make it work. England arrive in Mexico confident. Some people believe the 1970 team is actually stronger than the 66 team. Gordon Banks is in goal. Bobby Moore is still captain. Bobby Charlton still has the brain. Alan Ball still has the engine. And Geoff Hurst still has the memory of Wembley attached to him. But England's preparation is awkward. There's heat, altitude, travel. And then the Bogota bracelet affair, where Bobby Moore is falsely accused of stealing from a jewelry shop in Colombia during England's pre-tournament preparations. He's detained, then cleared, then returns to the squad. So when Brazil and England meet on June 7, this is not just a group match. Both have already won their openers. Brazil beat Czechoslovakia 4-1. England beat Romania 1-0. This feels like the final, before the final, and it's played at noon, in Guadalajara heat, under Mexican sun. And then comes the save. Around the 10th minute, Carlos Alberto feeds Jairzinho down the right. Jairzinho accelerates, gets past Terry Cooper, and crosses. The cross is not floated hopefully, it's delivered. Pelé reads it before everyone else. He rides above the white shirts and heads the ball down, hard, toward Banks's right-hand corner. This is not a looping header. It bounces brutally, a couple of yards in front of the line, which makes it even harder. A bouncing ball doesn't arrive politely. It kicks up, changes height, forces the keeper to adjust in midair. Banks starts near his left post. He has to travel across the goalmouth, dive back to his right, twist his body, reach with his right hand, and somehow lift the ball over the crossbar. The moment is absurd. Across, down, up, behind, over. Pelé has shouted goal. The crowd has roared. Banks himself later said he didn't even know at first whether he had saved it. Then the ball is over the bar. Corner. Still 0-0. Bobby Moore walks over and gives him the most English compliment imaginable. You're getting old, Banksy. You used to hold on to them. That line tells you something about goalkeepers too. Even miracles are expected to be tidy. The match continues. England do not collapse. In fact, England played Brazil closer than almost anyone in that tournament. Moore makes his own legendary intervention, a perfect tackle on Jairzinho. England create chances. Brazil are brilliant, but not untouchable. Then, just before the hour, Brazil score. Tostão works on the left. Pelé receives and draws the defense, and he lays the ball to Jairzinho. The man they call the Hurricane finishes. Brazil 1, England 0. That is the final score. Not a rout, not a lesson, but a classic. So what? The first thing is obvious. The save outlived the match. Brazil won, Jairzinho scored, Pelé and more produced one of the great post-match images, exchanging shirts in mutual respect. Brazil went on to win the World Cup, beating Peru, Uruguay and then Italy 4-1 in the final, and then got to keep the Jules Rimet trophy forever. Well, almost forever, but I'll tell that story another day. But the moment everyone still replays from Brazil against England is the save. And that matters because it tells us how football memory works. A goal changes a score. A save can change an imagination. Before television, great saves lived mostly in words. He flew. He somehow reached it. He tipped it around the post. You had to trust the witness. But 1970 is the first World Cup broadcast globally in color. This save is not just described. It is seen, replayed, shared, mythologized. And because the save is against Pelé, it has the perfect opponent. The greatest player of the age. Maybe the greatest player ever. The shot, or in this case the header, needs to be worthy of the save. Pelé gives Banks that gift. Banks gives it back. Pelé later said he thought he had scored, and then Banks appeared like a blue phantom. He also called it one of the best saves he had ever seen. And from that point, Gordon Banks becomes a strange kind of football immortal. He was already a World Cup winner, as he was England's goalkeeper in 1966. He would be named FIFA Goalkeeper of the Year 6 times. He would win 73 caps for England. And still, he knew what people wanted to talk about. Not the final of 66, not the medals, but that save. In a way that's unfair, but in another way it's perfect, because goalkeeping is the loneliest art in football. The striker can miss and be forgiven if he scores later. The midfielder can lose the ball and win it back. The defender can survive by being invisible. But the goalkeeper, he's remembered in flashes. The mistake, the dive, the hand, the fingertip, the impossible stop. Banks gave the position one of its defining images. And then the World Cup turned cruel. England still qualify from the group. They beat Czechoslovakia. The quarterfinal is against West Germany, a rematch of 1966. But Banks falls ill before the match. Severe stomach trouble, cramps, fever, vomiting, the infamous Montezuma's revenge. Peter Bonetti has to play. England lead 2-0. Then Beckenbauer scores. Then Uwe Seeler scores. And then Gerd Müller scores in extra time. West Germany 3, England 2. The holders are out. And forever after, English football asks the question, what if Banks had played? There is no answer. Only the question. For Brazil, the 1970 run becomes football scripture. 6 matches, 6 wins, 19 goals, Jairzinho scoring in every game. Pelé ending his World Cup career with a 3rd winner's medal. Carlos Alberto's goal in the final becoming a team move so perfect it almost feels choreographed. For England, 1970 becomes the last real glow of the 1966 generation. For Banks, the years after are both triumphant and tragic. In 1972, he wins the League Cup with Stoke City. Later that year, a car crash costs him the sight in his right eye and effectively ends his top-level career. And yet even then, he refuses to disappear. He later plays in the North American Soccer League with the Fort Lauderdale Strikers and is named NASL Goalkeeper of the Year in 1977, performing at elite level with sight in only one eye. That is why the save remains so powerful. It is not only athletic, it is symbolic. Pelé is the perfect attacker. The header is the perfect finish. Banks is beaten by logic, and then he refuses the logic. Before we go, 3 things to take away from June 7, 1970. First, Brazil against England was not just a group match. It was the defending world champions against a side that would define the tournament, a final before the final. Second, Gordon Banks' save became immortal because it combined everything: Pelé, color television, perfect technique, impossible reaction time, and the drama of a ball that everyone thought was already in. And third, the match marked the passing of the torch. England's 66 side was still magnificent, but Brazil 1970 was becoming legend in real time. On this day in 1970, Gordon Banks flew across his goal in Guadalajara, lifted Pelé's downward header over the bar, and made the save by which all great saves are still measured. That's all for episode 219 of OTD, your daily dose of soccer history by 17 Lost Guy. Please rate the show. 5 stars, please. If not 5 stars, then forget about it. I want to humor the algorithm. If you have an idea for the show, my email is otd@17lostguy.com. Tomorrow, go to June 8, 1969, and the World Cup qualifier between Honduras and El Salvador that became tied forever to the so-called football war. A match, a border, a crisis already waiting to explode. See you then.